Deep dive on PR Genius.
Ever find yourself clicking on some random video online and suddenly you're just knee-deep in a world you never knew existed?
Oh, absolutely. Happens all the time.
Well, that's exactly where I landed with the Church of the Subgenius. Stumbled upon this really, really unique YouTube thing.
Ah, the subgenius folks. Yeah, they're something else.
So for you today, we're plunging into this rather unconventional group, the real deep dive.
Sounds good. Where do we start?
We'll use that video as a sort of jumping off point. Plus, we've got some thoughts from their main voice, Ivan Stang, and we'll even check out their online radio station, Slack Radio.
Okay, so the video, Stang, the radio. Got it.
Yeah. The mission, basically, is to get a handle on the core ideas here. You know, the story behind this J.R. Bob Dobbs character and just how this whole thing even got started.
Right. And that day of the subgenius video you mentioned, it's quite the introduction.
He really is.
The description I saw, I think it was on Night Flight Plus, says it's from 2011, only about 7 minutes long.
Yeah, short but dense, it sounds like.
Totally. And it's directly inspired by Reverend Ivan Stang's The Brag of the Subgenius, which is, like, foundational for them.
Their main text.
Kind of, yeah. And the video itself is this wild mix, right? Live action animation.
Who made it?
Chris Hopewell from the Bolex brothers. They're known for some interesting stuff.
Okay.
And the plot, if you can call it that, it's a metropolis under attack, UFOs, classic B-movie monsters, the works.
Sounds chaotic.
Completely. But interestingly, the synopsis makes a point of saying no sex or nudity.
Huh. That's specific.
It is, isn't it? It sounds like a real visual blast into their whole mindset, though you do need that Night Flight Plus subscription to actually watch it, apparently.
Right, okay. So a manifesto with UFOs and creature features. That definitely paints a picture. A weird one.
Definitely weird.
But, like, how did this picture even get painted in the first place? Where did it all begin?
Well, there's a review, I think from SXSW, about a documentary on them. It gives some background.
Oh, yeah. What's it say?
Apparently, the church popped up around 1979 down in Fort Worth, Texas.
This is okay.
And it was started by these two guys, Ivan Stang and Philo Drummond. They described themselves as, like, bored, nerdy.
Relatable, maybe? What were they into?
Big time into comic books, Frank Zappa's music, that kind of vibe. Gives you a sense of their initial headspace.
Yeah, I can sort of picture that Zappa in comics in the late 70s.
And think about the time, too. The review mentions this was the early 80s, the Reagan era. The whole counterculture vibe from the 60s was being flicked on its head, as the reviewer put it.
Ah, okay. So a reaction to the times.
Seems like it. That shift in values maybe created a space for something deliberately, weird, like the Church of the Subgenius, to actually take root. It makes a bit more sense as a reaction, maybe even a kind of playful rebellion against that conservative shift.
Exactly. And it wasn't just them chatting, Stang and Drummond. They actively started pushing these ideas out there through a zine called Subgenius Pamphlet, #1.
A zine, classic. What was it like?
The review describes it as this bizarre cocktail, right? Fringe beliefs, conspiracy theories, that deep suspicion of anything mainstream, and even the whole over-the-top energy of televangelists.
Wow, okay. All mixed together.
Yeah, mixed together with lo-fi clip art and these written bits that sound almost normal, but then just veer off into total absurdity.
That blurring of lines, serious versus ridiculous, seems pretty key to them.
Totally. And it's in that zine that we first meet their main guy, their prophet J.R. Bob Dobbs.
Oh, Bob. The face of the church, literally.
Yeah, and the SXSW review nails his look. Just a piece of super generic 1950s dad clip art. You know the one?
I think so, yeah. Pipe, cheesy grin.
That's him. The reviewer even says you've probably seen that image float around online sometime in the last, 40 years. It's become this instantly recognizable symbol. Almost a meme before memes, maybe?
Definitely has that feel. A symbol of?
Yeah.
Well, what is it a symbol of? That's the question.
Good question. And it's crucial to remember the satire here. The review makes a really sharp point contrasting them with someone like Jim Jones.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, Jones had that terrifying persuasive power. Stang and Drummond. In the early days, they just asked for $1. A single dollar from anyone who, got what they were doing in the zine.
$1.
Yeah. Stang apparently said something like, if Jim Jones could talk 900 people into suicide, we could talk 900 people into sending us $1.
That's quite a statement, but it shows the intent, right? It's parody.
Exactly. It was this mock church, this big satirical performance piece. And by all accounts, they were having a blast doing it.
So from that $1, they built this whole thing, this worldview.
Yeah, built around some really abstract concepts like Slack.
Right, Slack. The SXSW review mentions it, and I think that Robert Space Industries' description does too. It's not just laziness, is it?
No, not at all. It's presented as something way more fundamental, something that shouldn't be stolen from you.
Like,
Well, literal free time, sure, but also like the freedom to think for yourself,
mental
breathing room, Subgenius in that way was offering a different lens to see the world
a
through.
lens to see the conspiracy.
Exactly. And the conspiracy, like Slack, was super flexible, not some single Illuminati group.
So what was it then?
According to the review, it could be whatever bugged you. Pressure to conform, a dead-end job, even just like a really hot bus ride, anything that felt like it was trying to steal your slack.
So it's very personal, this conspiracy.
Seems like it. Whatever you felt was holding you back or making you conform.
The SXSW review also mentioned the early members, said it leaned libertarian, mostly middle-class white guys.
Yeah, it did note that. But it also pointed out that the documentary filmmaker talked to plenty of women who were deeply involved too. So maybe a more complex picture than just that initial impression.
Right, important nuance.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about Ivan Stang himself, the voice, the writer, author of the Book of the Subgenius, High Weirdness by Mail.
Those titles definitely tell you something.
Right. And looking at some quotes attributed to him, you really get his perspective. He talks about needing to study the extremists, the obscure and nutty.
Why?
As a balance, he says. To counteract the middle-of-the-road crap you get from mainstream media, it seems like he really believed in actively seeking out weird perspectives.
Challenging the norm, basically, even if the norm seems normal.
Exactly. So if you ever feel the mainstream story is missing something, maybe his approach resonates in a very, very weird way.
And his own perspective gets pretty out there in those quotes, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. He warns about space monsters and their super advanced computer brain called MWOWM.
Wow.
Yeah, MWOWM. Apparently, these other beings, the Zists, whoever they are, will give this brain to humanity.
Okay, and then what?
Then we apparently spend all our time arguing about whether to turn it on or off and become totally dependent on it. It's this weird sci-fi prophecy mixed into the satire.
So aliens and AI anxiety, way back then.
Seems like it. And it gets surprisingly political, too. He calls America a crooked and perverse nation.
Strong words. What's his beef?
Mainly how the economy always seems to trump ecology. He really stressed that the church shouldn't be about accepting the planet dying, but about, doing something.
So under the absurdity, there's actual concern, maybe even activism.
It seems that way, yeah. Expressed very strangely, but it's there.
He also talks about their mission, right? Something about Wotan.
Yeah, their covenant with Wotan to smite the mediocritans and the normals.
And mediocritans, who are they?
Basically, anyone seen as conformist, anyone contributing to this slackless society. The list of who gets smitten is long and kind of cartoonish, but also pointed. It makes you wonder who fits their definition of mediocre.
It's a very us versus them mentality, even in jest.
Definitely. And then there's this quote, Bob can handle the aliens, but we must police ourselves.
What do you make of that?
It feels like, okay, there's this huge cosmic weirdness, but ultimately you're responsible for your own stuff, your own thoughts, your own actions within society. Individual responsibility, maybe.
Interesting. Amidst all the chaos, a call for self-awareness.
Which brings us back to the main man himself, J.R. Bob Dobbs, Mr. Pipe and Grin.
The Yeti salesman.
Exactly. That Robert Space Industries description really goes deep into his very complex and contradictory backstory.
He's got titles, right? High E-popped, living Slackmaster.
Yep, and greatest salesman. Physically, always the grin, always smoking frop in his pipe.
What is frap? Anyway.
Good question. It's never really defined, is it? But you get the sense it's something desirable, maybe forbidden. Adds to the mystique.
And you?
Yeah, the description calls him a full-blooded Yeti.
A Yeti who apparently gave L. Ron Hubbard the idea for Scientology.
That's the story, in 1953, no less.
Yeah.
And he also founded Forbidden Science.
It just keeps piling on.
Oh, it does. He's a polygamist.
Oh.
Connie Gobbs is the main wife, but he's also married to Eris Discordia from Discordianism.
Of course he is.
And naturally, he's a sex god. It's just constant, deliberate absurdity escalation.
What else is in his mythology, according to that RSI source?
Well, he supposedly got the pre-scriptures from Jehovah One while messing with a TV set. He helped found the church, fought the Pink Boys, part of the conspiracy.
Okay.
Then, plot twist, he gets assassinated in 1984 by his own followers.
What? He's still around.
Currently. The story goes he was later elected to British Parliament, now sits in the House of Lords. It makes absolutely no sense.
Which is probably the point.
Exactly. And all this was leading up to X Day, July 5th, 1998, the day the aliens were supposed to arrive.
Which didn't happen.
Spoilers. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
And the subgenius take on, like, facts about Bob is hilarious.
How so?
Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Totally dismissed. Misinformation and lies. His name always has quotes around it. Bob.
Right.
And believing in him requires faith in Bob, with the exclamation mark. The Dobbs head picture itself is offered as proof he exists. It's all about messing with authority and proof.
And didn't you say there was a quote from Bob?
Yeah. You'll pay to know what you really think.
Ooh. That sounds slightly ominous. Pay how?
It suggests there's a cost, maybe discomfort, in digging into your own real thoughts within their framework. And Bob promises to, like, widen the definition of abnormal and bring back people who go over the edge.
So embracing the fringe, the weird.
Totally. And what's really interesting is how they deal with Bob's flaws.
He has flaws, the Yeti sex god salesman.
Apparently.
Yeah.
His foibles of the primate race, they call him? They aren't hidden, they're sacrosanct. More important than his sales skills.
Seriously?
Yeah. There's a quote, "The stupider it looks, the more important it probably is." Embracing the ridiculous seems absolutely core to the whole thing.
That's a philosophy, all right. How does this manifest today? You mentioned radio.
Right, Slack Radio. It seems to be the modern hub. It's an online thing, founded by someone called Lord Ferg.
Lord Ferg.
They have a main show, Virgin Friday Madness, and the focus is totally on eclectic, mutant-curated music. Sounds about right for Subgenius, doesn't it?
Mutant curated. Yeah, that fits. So, just weird music.
Seems like it's more than that. The description really pushes the community angle. They want listeners involved, hosting shows, donating, volunteering.
Keeping the flame alive.
Yeah, and they even launched an online store last summer, 2023, selling Slack Radio and official Subgenius merch. Some of it handmade by local artisans.
Wow, so it's still quite active, a real subculture.
Definitely seems that way. And the listener feedback they share is super enthusiastic. People talk about the mind-blowing variety stuff you won't hear elsewhere and how it captures the true spirit of Subgenius.
So it's a place for people who connect with these unusual ideas to find each other and share. Slack.
Pretty much. A modern gathering place for the believers, or at least the amused.
Okay, let's pull back a bit. We've touched on a lot of the beliefs and practices, largely from that Roberts Space Industries source, right?
Yeah, that source laid out a lot. The core idea. Culture, religion. It's all conspiracy propaganda. The goal is Slack.
And they call out to abnormal individuals. What do they promise them?
Secret wishes granted. Action. Thrills. Success in sex and business. Oh, and getting rid of compulsive urges. Pretty big promises.
Sounds almost like, well, a cult's recruitment pitch, doesn't it?
It does have that vibe in places. They talk about Buddhata and Morialism, paths to becoming a doctor of the forbidden sciences. There's a strong sense of a global conspiracy silencing anyone different.
And the U.S. government is a sham.
According to them, yeah. The real powers are unbelievable things, and Jehovah One, the one who gave Bob the prescriptures, is an alien.
An alien god, okay.
But there are good aliens, too. The Exists, who are apparently mentors waiting in space. The whole of history is seen as this cosmic battle between Jehovah and the Exists.
Wow, that's an epic backstory.
And Bob's arrival, the divine immaculation of J.R. Bob Dobbs, is a key event in that conflict.
It's so elaborate, but didn't that source also list some things that sounded a bit controlling?
It did. Under ways by which we live, and additional notes, it listed things like demanding absolute submission, having a very black and white worldview, manipulating feelings, discouraging critical thinking, controlling information and time. Stuff that really does echo cult behavior checklists.
Yikes. That sounds less fun and satirical.
It does. But then, right after listing all that, there's this disclaimer. It's not as bad as it looks. You get used to it after a while.
Even the warnings are wrapped in that weird dismissive humor. You never quite know where the satire ends and something else begins.
Exactly. It constantly keeps you off balance.
So summing up this whole journey, we started with that bonkers day of the Subgenius video.
Yeah, our weird entry point.
Yeah.
Then dug into the origins, Ivan Stang, Philo Drummond, born in Texas.
Right, the creation myth. And the central figure, the endlessly contradictory J.R. Dobbs.
The Yeti salesman himself.
Yeah.
And that core concept of Slack, fighting the conspiracy.
And how it all lives on today through things like Slack Radio, this online community hub.
It's quite a ride.
And what really sticks with me is just how deliberately weird and satirical it all is. It kind of forces you, as the listener, to think about your own relationship with conformity, right?
Yeah, definitely. How much do we just accept the way things are? How much do we value being an individual versus fitting in?
And how important is it to question those norms, those expectations we just absorb?
So maybe the final thought to leave people with is this. Given this unique mix in Subgenius, the humor, the critique, the pure absurdity, what does the fact that it's still around say about us?
About our need for alternatives, maybe, especially
Hmm.
when the world feels increasingly complex or
I'm
maybe even conformist.
Yeah, a need for different perspectives, even really bizarre ones, and maybe more personally, where do you, the listener, manage to find your own little bit of slack?
Deep dive on PR Genius.